Hello everybody, welcome to my review of the AOC Q27G4ZMN. Unfortunately, I don't have any measuring equipment, so I'm not going to be able to give you any hard numbers on stuff like the response time or the contrast or the colors. And I understand that for a lot of people that's the main thing you're looking for in a review, so I'm saving you the time. If you're here for that, you can go ahead and skip now. This is my first VA monitor, and I've not had any OLED monitors before this, so temper your expectations with that. I've known about this monitor since as far back as I think December 2024, which I think is about around the time it comes out. I do see on the web archive on November 12th, 2024, it does get listed on Visa's website. I do go on there about once a month and save the page, but I only had saved back till May 2025. I was going on there before once a month, but I just wasn't saving, so thankfully the web archive had me covered. The AOC Q27G4ZMN is the successor to the critically acclaimed and quite popular Q27G3ZMN. I'll go over exactly how I know it's the successor in just a moment, but first I want to talk about the numbering scheme that AOC uses. And I'm going to break it down for you so you understand what all of that means, except for a couple digits I don't know what they mean. So Q is for QHD, which is 2560 by 1440. I hope I don't need to explain what the 27 is. I'm a little surprised it's not 68 centimeters because they sell these in China first, and they may even get more sales in China than they do outside of China, so I'm a little surprised they use inches. But anyway, G stands for gaming, I'm pretty sure, as you won't find this on the Aegon line, which has AG, or you won't find this on like the Porsche collab they did for some reason, which doesn't have a G in it either. I have no idea what these numbers mean. I thought it was, oh, it's the last digit of the year, but as you're going to see later in the video, that's not true. So if you have any idea what this means, let me know. This letter tells you the refresh rate range, so X is 100 to 199. I don't know if there's some like cutoff in the middle there somewhere where it changes, but all the models I've seen with 100 to up to 199 have an X. Z is for 200 to 299, and I know it stops at 300 because we'll look at one in a second that has a different letter for 300. M stands for mini LED backlight, and N is VA. I don't know why N is VA. If you saw this combination of letters and numbers but there was no N on the end, it would be IPS. For this video, I will be calling the Q27G3ZMN just the 3X, since those are the only digits that are different from the Q27G4ZMN, which I will call the 4Z. And if I talk about the other one, the 40X, I'll probably call it the 40X or the 40X. I don't know. Would I recommend this monitor? Yes, but if you already have the 3X, I would probably not upgrade, as I don't think it's going to be that different. But if you have a 3X and you're looking for, to add an additional monitor to your setup, I think this would be okay. Personally, I'd rather have like two very different panels, like maybe one IPS and one BA, just so I can get two pretty different perspectives when I'm working with something. But if you want them to be about the same, I understand. So I didn't think my phone camera was good enough to really capture the blur busters test, but actually I put it on slow-mo and it did okay. Here are the settings that I would recommend, and I will show you how those actually look. I'm going to show you 240 Hertz on fastest first. Honestly, I'm really impressed with how the 240 Hertz on fastest looks. The bottom row is really good. You can't quite read the text, but outside of that, it's quite impressive. Obviously, the top row and the dark background does have some smearing, but I think this is really good for VA. Honestly, I was not expecting the bottom and middle rows to look anywhere near this good. Then 120 Hertz on faster. And then 60 Hertz on fast. Now, honestly, I just leave it on 240 Hertz fastest all the time. I don't use variable refresh rate because I've heard that can cause VRR flicker. And even if it didn't cause the flicker, there's no smart overdrive setting. So I'd have to go in and manually configure the overdrive, like depending on like which game I'm playing or what area I'm in. I might be getting screen tearing, but I don't notice it. Maybe I'm getting some and I just don't see it, but it's not really been a problem for me. Okay, next let's talk about local dimming. I went through the settings, and I'm going to recommend you use medium, but I will try recording the screen and on an image and going through between them so you can get an idea. The only problem with that is this phone cameras especially auto adjust their brightness, so I don't know how well it's going to come out on the video. For some reason, if I point the phone camera straight at the screen, it has astigmatism. So I kind of pointed it more towards the other monitor, and that kind of seemed to fix it. First, I'm going to have local dimming turned off. I'm going to have it on weak, medium, and strong. Reviewing that footage and looking at it myself, I actually decided to go change my setting to strong. I don't know if strong is going to be problematic if there's moving stuff on the screen, but at least with a static image, strong seems better. Unfortunately, this is the part where you asked me about HDR, and I need to tell you that Linux browsers do not support HDR. It is possible for me to download HDR videos and turn on HDR mode and watch them, but honestly I don't know anything about that, so I'm not gonna tell you one way or the other about that. Don't currently play any games that use HDR, so again, I don't want to try to walk into something I don't know that much about. There is an HDR setting, and I'm sure it probably works okay, based on other AOC monitor reviews, but I can't give you a definitive answer. So how about that stand? I can't really make too many comments on it because I didn't feel like it would really go into my weird setup, so I replaced it with a stand from Amazon. The stand it comes with is okay, it's just that the legs are really long and they would stick out off my shelf, and they also might be in the way on your desk, so it seems okay, just it's kind of awkward, but yeah, it seemed like it worked okay. I didn't try it, but it seems reasonably adjustable and decently well built. It does have 4 plastic tabs that actually hold the monitor onto the stand, but it rests on the metal plate. So I feel like if there was a force high enough to snap those 4 plastic tabs, it'd probably destroy the screen anyway, so it's probably okay. Now earlier I said that I knew that the 4Z was the successor to the 3X and that the 40X is not. And I'm going to demonstrate to you how I know that. Okay, here is painlook.com, which is a place where manufacturers can order LCDs to assemble into monitors, and it's possible AOC even buys their stuff on here. This SG27G4ZMN, which is made by CSOT, is the panel that's used in the 3X. How do I know? For some reasons, several reviews I checked just tell you that. I'm not really sure why they just tell you that, but they do, and eventually I found my way to this website that covers the specs that the manufacturer provides. Now, one thing you'll notice here is the refresh rate is 165 Hz, which is not the 180 Hz on the 3X and the 40X, but it's overclocked. Now this one over here, the 02-4, you'll notice here has a 240 Hz refresh rate. So we know that that's the one that goes in the 4Z because you can even go look on the catalog and there's not very many 240 Hz VA panels. Interesting thing to note here on these is this one has a listed lower contrast ratio compared to the -2. I'm not sure how much of a difference that's going to make because this is just with one regular backlight, so this does not have the local dimming zones. One thing I thought was pretty unusual is despite the -4 being a later model number, scroll down here to the issue date, it actually gets issued before this data sheet gets issued. It gets issued earlier, and it customer samples 1 quarter before and goes into mass production 1 quarter before. You'll see there's no supplier here, but this is just publicly available. Obviously CSOT and AOC probably have a relationship, so I doubt AOC actually comes to buy on here. But as you can see, there's a lot of stock of 02-2. So of course then that begs the question is, what is the 40X? If it's not the 02-4 panel, and if it is the 0-2 panel, as they have the same refresh rate, then what is the 40X? Well, I'm pretty sure it's simply the 02-2 panel, but with the 1152 zone backlight that goes in the 4Z. And also, to me, another indicator that it's not the successor is the 3X and the 4Z both have the same adjustable stand with the long legs, and the 40X does not. So I'm pretty sure what AOC did was they took advantage of how much people know about the 3X, and they said, oh, well, we don't have the 4Z available yet in the US, so what we'll do is we'll take our panels and we'll slap the better backlight on there, and then, oh, we don't have the stand, we don't have those better stands, but we'll slap a crap stand on there and we will put this thing out. Now, is it an upgrade to the 3X? Yeah, because it has the better backlight, but the panel is still the same panel and the stand's worse. Now, you'll notice, of course, I pointed out that the contrast ratio on the Dash 4 panel is lower, though the refresh rate is higher. So it's possible that the 40X has better contrast than the 4Z. I'd say it's pretty likely just based on this, because this is not, they're not trying to sell like this data to any customers or anybody. This is literally the manufacturer's specification. So like usually if you see like the color gamut on the spec sheet is almost always very accurate, and that's because they just copy what's right here listed. Now this one doesn't have a listing, but most of them will have the color gamut listed. So they literally just copy this and put it on the spec sheet. Also, I think it's funny that they'll list the response time as like 5 is pretty common for VAs. Now I don't know what the actual response time is, but yeah, they're a lot less optimistic, let's say. They're not putting 1 millisecond on anything. So what's coming up? Do I know the next product in the product line? And if so, how much better is it than the 4Z or the 3X? Well, actually, I do know what's coming up next, because CSOT discontinues this O2 product family and starts the O4 product family. Next product available in the O4 family is going to be the Dash 2, which has a higher contrast ratio of 5,000 to 1, has a higher refresh rate of 300 Hertz, and is also curved. It is listed to be used in 2 different models, one from Philips and one from AOC. The funny thing is, on AOC's website, they don't tell you anywhere that it's curved. And places like Display Specifications, who just scrape AOC's website, also don't tell you that it's curved. But it must be, because that's the only one that is available, at least on PainLook. Now, of course, if they have a special relationship, which they probably do, they maybe could get one that's not publicly listed on PainLook, but I doubt it. So, as I mentioned earlier, I would recommend this monitor to most people. If you're looking for a monitor that can do HDR but isn't OLED, or you just don't want to pay the price for OLED, or you're worried about the brightness or longevity of OLED, I feel like this is a pretty good monitor. It's probably one of the best VA monitors you can get right now, and it's probably one of the best LCD monitors you can get right now. And it's affordable, which is appreciated. I know it's not available in some regions, and I think the AOC even explicitly said they were not planning to bring this monitor to Europe. So hopefully you'll be able to get it in Europe at some point, but maybe not. You might have to wait for the 4S or whatever they come out with in the future. Thanks for watching.